cults target vulnerable people. This is usually done through some type of refined indoctrination or recruitment strategy, but the targets usually remain the same. They try and find people that are the most vulnerable in society, whether that be because of a drug problem, a drinking problem, moving from one place to another and they don't have a lot of friends, a job change, any significant event that happens in life that might lead someone to be susceptible. That is oftentimes where cults or cult-like institutions or organizations will step in and provide this facade of a gap, a filler that fills the void left behind, something that is left behind when something goes wrong in your life. Now, who are the most vulnerable people in society? Well, it's children, due to their lack of experience and their growing brains. And today we're going to examine a Jehovah's Witness propaganda music video that really highlights a lot of this. So let's do this. Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally and today we are going to take a look at a music video from Jehovah's Witnesses. Quickly before we get into it, don't forget to drop a like on the video. It helps it get out to more people on YouTube and is very much appreciated. Also, if you want to take a look at the last video I made, which it looks like here on the thumbnail, a link in the description below, I was super proud of it. I think it might be the best video that I've ever made. It is a history of Jehovah's Witnesses and their shunning policy, but it really highlights the transition that Jehovah's Witnesses made from being a normal religion or a more normal religion to being a full-fledged cult. So check it out if you will, very much appreciated. With all of that being said, let's jump right into it.
Everybody wants to be accepted, but sometimes you just want to hide, 'cause you're afraid you'll be rejected when making a stand for what's right.
If you talk to anyone that has been a Jehovah's Witness about what the most terrifying experience that they had growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, if they attended public school, you will find an overwhelming majority of people will say one thing. It's exactly what we see here, is running in to someone you know at school, out in the field ministry, out preaching and knocking on doors, trying to sell Jesus to your neighbors. If little Billy or Timmy down the street sees you, this overwhelming embarrassment comes about. And that is shared by almost every ex-witness that I've ever talked to. Said, yep, that was the most terrifying experience that they could go through. Now, the geriatric dunderheads that write these things miss the plot entirely. If you listen here to the lyrics, where maybe I'm the dunderhead, where they're saying you want to hide because you have this feeling that you might be rejected for standing up for what's right. Is that really what's going on here? For fear of branching too far off and going into Wally rant territory, I just wanted to mention a few things about how children develop from a social and a neurological standpoint. So, before you reach puberty, your brain actually gets to its maximum size. It's full of all of this gray matter and there's all of this neuroplasticity going on before something that is quite amazing happens, and that is called synaptic pruning. It's a thinning of the herd, essentially, and your brain literally cuts away on neurological connections and strengthens others, and that is just for efficiency. Instead of having a bunch of loose wires, you get really strong wires. Imagine a wiring of any kind. What do you always see, whether it's on a microphone or your keyboard or whatever it is? It has that hard plastic coating around it or that rubberish coating around it. Well, your brain literally does the exact same thing, and that is to help with the durability and the efficiency that your mind works at. Now, part of the brain that takes the longest to develop is your prefrontal cortex. Now, I'm not a neurological expert. I don't have a degree in anything. I'm just some goofball that has probably read a few too many books during his days. So don't take anything I'm saying as necessarily law, but do some research yourself if you feel like you'd like to understand some things a little bit better. But from my understanding and from what I've read, and again, there's not a universal, like, we understand the brain, because it's not that simple. But what we do know is that the prefrontal cortex is one of the regions of the brain that takes the absolute longest to develop. Now, one of the things as your prefrontal cortex is developing that section of the brain controls or has a large part of controlling is your executive functions, the things that help you make long-term planning and short-term decision making. Oftentimes, that's why teenagers will appear to be a lot more impulsive, because they haven't really developed those sectors of their brain yet. And another thing that is also developing here is the patterning of behavior and the recognition that other people have thoughts and feelings and emotions about you. Now, this is something that is shocking. It is a shock to the system. And with recent, or not so recent studies, but with the fMRI technology, we've actually been, our neuroscientists have actually been doing more research about this. So excited to see where that goes in the next 10 years or so. Just with respect to, why do kids feel like they're on a stage all the time? Why do they feel like people are watching them all the time? Well, it might be because our brains are still developing this pattern of behavioral recognition. So just to put it in super simple terms, imagine you're going bowling and you have never been bowling before in your entire life, and you are surrounded by a bunch of other people that are experts at bowling, right? And then you're going to feel nervous. Oh, am I doing it right? You're going to feel like everyone is watching you and criticizing your technique, how you're holding the ball, where you're putting your foot. Is it on this plank? How many steps are you taking? Everything. In your mind, you're going to be focused more on what other people are thinking about you than what you're actually doing. Versus if you're someone that has been bowling for the last 20 years, you're going to have the confidence, you're going to have your own style, your own game plan, because you've had the practice. This is what adolescents are going through during this time period of their life. They are just now starting to bowl. They are just now developing those behavior pattern recognitions in their prefrontal cortex that is so atrociously slow at developing. And so they are going to be flooded with all of these emotions. And bada bing, bada boom, just like remember when you were a teenager, that feeling that everyone was watching every single little thing you did. And, oh man, I don't want someone to see me. I have an eyebrow out of place. Oh, I didn't fix my hair. Oh, I didn't put makeup on. I didn't cover this. Is it? Oh, I'm starting to get, all of these different things. And then magically you hit your mid-20s and you realize, wow, everyone was so concerned about themselves that none of us were actually concerned about other people. And you get over it and you just become a normal adult living your life, hopefully under normal circumstances. Now, taking everything that we know about the developmental process of the adolescent brain, do you think that you would find a single expert out there about child development that would tell you, you know what you should do when someone's just hitting puberty or going through their adolescence? You should make their actions directly correlated to life and death. Now that is really where Jehovah's Witnesses are experiencing the most trauma. So let's take a look at this video, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I think it really highlights it, especially with the lyrics. So let's go back and listen again what they said.
Everybody wants to be accepted, but sometimes you just want to hide, 'cause you're afraid you'll be rejected when making a stand for what's right.
So they are suggesting that you are afraid of being rejected for taking a stand for what's right. Now with Jehovah's Witnesses, and as we'll see with the rest of this video, this taking a stand for what is right is essentially, are you going to make God happy or are you going to make God sad? So you have a teenager that, I don't want to go preaching. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I might have the flu. I'm sick. Can't I just stay home and watch cartoons or play some video games? And the parent looks at that kid and says, you don't want to disappoint me, do you? I'll be so disappointed in you if you don't go there. But hey, if you want to stay home and just make me so sad and disappointed, I guess we can do that. Do you think that that's going to be an effective strategy? Do you think that you are going to be building that child up for success later on in life? But they make it even worse. So let's get into the chorus and really break that down.
Don't be afraid to stand out in Jehovah's eyes. You're a diamond, and when you shine, you stand out from the crowd. You're a diamond, and you make Jehovah proud.
So they try and correlate everything to making Jehovah proud. And Jehovah is to be seen as the great loving father. It has a parental tone to it. That is how Jehovah's Witnesses view God. So if you want to make God happy, you have to be willing to stand out and preach to kids in your neighborhood. You have to be willing to stand out, and then he'll see you as a diamond. But that has the opposite consequence as well. What if you have too much anxiety? What if you are feeling too embarrassed? What if you are put on the spot and you freeze up? Then the opposite would be true. You're making Jehovah sad. You are not shining bright like a diamond. You are a piece of turd. You are a big old pile of turds in God's eyes. So those are your choices. Again, do you think that that is going to be effective for a child's development as they are learning social behavior? Do you think that this is going to benefit them later on in life, or do you think it's going to cause trauma? I can tell you the answer, because like I said at the beginning, if you ask anyone that's been a Jehovah's Witness, they still experience trauma from those times. And that is why it's the first thing that people bring up when you ask them what was one of the worst things about growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. Man, I go preaching and doing this exact same thing. Now, the other thing that is important here is setting kids up for failure by giving them unrealistic expectations about what's going to happen when they do overcome all of this anxiety and stress they're feeling and finally go out and preach. You are not going to be met with these happy faces, and your peers aren't going to be like, oh yeah, well, what does that magazine actually say? We're talking about a 12-year-old. They don't even know what a magazine is in this day and age. But for the older person, yeah, sometimes they just want to be polite. It's like, do you want to buy the Girl Scout cookies? No. Do you just give them $7 because it makes the kid happy? Maybe, if it's a good day, right? So that could be a very realistic expectations of what happens. But if you're talking to other kids your age and it's like, okay, let's go talk to Brian and Chase down the street. Well, Brian and Chase are going to be like, what are you talking about? You get to live forever and there's lions. Well, what in tarnation are you talking about? I thought we were playing Roblox later. I thought they're thinking about Fortnite, not about their eternal future and whether or not they're going to be killed at the great day of Armageddon. And this is going to be met with like the kid's face on the left more than the one on the right. Confusion and maybe a little bit of making fun of or bullying. Just you're putting them in a situation to be bullied, by the way. Not really with smiles and, oh man, yeah, that's so true. It would be extraordinarily rare that someone that is in their teens or early teens or getting into that stage of their life is going to be bringing people into the congregation of God. And also, is that even right to go behind their parents' back in the first place and try and indoctrinate children away from what their parents might prefer to be training them or teaching them? Also, something that's a problem there. But all in all, I think we can all agree that this is going to be more of a hindrance than a benefit to a child's growth and development.
When it feels the whole wide world's against you and nothing is going your way, remember
So for anyone that doesn't know, Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate any holidays, and this includes birthdays. They say this is because the Bible is against it, but the Bible doesn't really ever say that birthdays are bad. It only mentions birthdays, and during someone's birthday, someone gets beheaded, and therefore all birthdays are bad for the rest of all eternity. It's a bit of a head scratcher, but we won't get too hung up on this. One of the consequences of this teaching is if there's a birthday party in school, a child will have to isolate themselves and not eat any cake. So the entire class is all eating cake and having a good time, but they aren't allowed to even eat the cake. They have to reject it and go sit in a corner and read a Watchtower publication by themselves. Now, the lyrics are interesting here because it really highlights so early on how Jehovah's Witnesses are being trained, even as children, to look at the world as being this negative, scary place. So the words here are, do you ever get the feeling that the whole wide world is against you? Well, what is the visual representation that the kids are seeing? Well, the whole world's against us because someone's offering me cake. Someone wants to give me a free piece of delicious cake, and I need to internalize that, interpret that signal in my little developing social brain as an attack, as the whole world being against me. Do you think that that is going to make kids terrified of just about everything? And again, the stakes are high. God is either going to smile or frown. You are either going to live or die by the choices you make even as a very young teenager. So, life or death is in the flour, in the batter of that cake. Do you want to eat it? And anyone offering it to you is against you. And that is how Jehovah's Witnesses develop this us versus them mentality, where they think that the whole world is being led by Satan, trying to tempt them to get them to stumble just once, and then bam, Armageddon happens and you die forever. And that is just what the sad reality of being a Jehovah's Witness is. You're just scared of everything, and it starts so early in life.
Don't be afraid to stand out. In Jehovah's eyes, you're a diamond, and when you shine, you stand out from the crowd. You're a diamond, and you make Jehovah proud.
Now, something that absolutely cannot be ignored is how Jehovah's Witness children are going to look at the world as the safe place is in the glowing lights inside the Kingdom Hall where everyone's brightly colored and happy. That is where you are safe. That is where you're making Jehovah happy and everyone's going to be there to protect you. On the outside of the world, that is where everything bad, that is where people tempt you. That's anti-Jehovah. That's Satan. Satan bad. You don't want any of that. Death. But inside, safe. But this doesn't work because Jehovah's Witnesses have a horrible track record of protecting children, especially when it comes to sexual predators. They have a long history of not adequately dealing with the problem of sexual abuse within their walls. And so automatically making children believe that this is a safe place is inherently going to be a bad idea. And it's going to lead to a level of trust that shouldn't exist. You should not trust the people inside the congregation just because they're there. And yet, that is what is happening. That is what is being portrayed. And so I find it amazing that in 2024 of the year of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, that they are still continuing this narrative of everything on the outside of the world being bad, but here is your safe place, when they know, when they are spending millions of dollars every single year to try and fight these court cases that are, everyone can agree, like, Watchtower, your rules made this worse. You did not adequately protect children. When you knew something, you didn't say something. When there was a predator in your mix, a known predator, you didn't go to the police. You didn't warn parents. There are so many examples. Just go into any Google search, whatever search engine you use, and type it in, and you will find a plethora of news stories highlighting that. And in their efforts to keep children safe, they are putting them in even further danger. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for over-analyzing a kid's video. I find these things really interesting, and I hope you guys too. If you're still around, drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see further updates like this. With all that being said, stay safe, be kind, and show yourself the same kindness that you show to others. And I hope you have a good ass day.